All right, so welcome. I hope that you guys have been enjoying the convention. It's awesome. I love coming back here year after year after year. We will eventually get to me, but this is my 9th year coming back and forth, and I love it. But you are here for getting more out of Aria Automation. We will be covering the creating the logical constructs, or creating the cloud abstraction layer. And in this, our agenda today is basically meeting all the experts. And if you want to go ahead and start the lab, feel free. But we will cover some things, and we're going to get to a point where I'm going to basically pose some questions that you should think about when you get ready to configure your Aria Automation platform, okay? As you see around the room, we have several people involved in creating this lab because it covers multiple different products and products within our lab. So Aria Automation, Operations, Login Site,
Lifecycle Manager.
Lifecycle Manager, but you look like you have a question.
I was going to pass the microphone over for Narmada to introduce herself.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. Thanks for coming in. So I'm Narmada from Bangalore VMware site. So I work for R&D team, specifically Modern Apps and Management Business Group. So we work on VMware Aria product development and also in Tanzu. So my specialism is more on Aria and Aria Automation. So glad to share our knowledge with you all folks, and yeah, looking forward to talk to you all. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, sure, go ahead. So, Catherine Skellin, I'm a staff consultant in our professional services organisation.
Get up on the stage.
Sorry, I'm sure it doesn't make much difference if I stand on the stage. So, I've been with VMware for around 7.5 years. This is my 3rd year as a hands-on labs captain. So I've helped create some of the modules in this particular lab, but also I focus around the orchestration technology as well, and also around the VCF technology, so VMware Cloud Foundation, data center products as well. All my details are on the slide. Feel free to contact me on Twitter, via email, or here atop my blog as well.
In addition to Catherine and Narmada, we also have Tricia, who worked on this lab, and she is out and about around, but her background is in orchestration and automation. Been doing it for a long time. Wish she was here so she could introduce herself, but we got her info here. And then you have me. I have been with VMware Professional Services for a very long time. 10 years with VMware. I've been doing HOL as a captain for 9 years. I am a former Marine, twice the Marine as I used to be. Woohoo, hoorah. And I am I've worked on the certification exams with CMA and DCV. And as this thing says, I have been a captain for a while working on CMA. In this, we all have our headphones in the environment. As I stated before, as you guys were seating, and some of you may not have heard this, if there are any questions, and I do encourage questions, please raise your hand, and either Catherine or Narmada will come by, and if there's a question for me, they'll relay the question to me. If it's a problem with the lab, they will work with you to resolve, or if you're having other technical issues, they'll work with you to get those resolved as well. The environment itself, and these are just generic slides, but these are the environment itself has changed if you have done hands-on labs in the past. We have a new engine on the back end. So as you will move your mouse, you will find that the screen for the console will try to auto-size for you. Just click on the screen and it will actually size appropriately for that particular window. But as you move your mouse back and forth from the manual to the console window, it may auto-size. That is normal, so please don't freak out about that, okay? When you're done with the expert-led workshop, as you know, there are other stations in the convention or the event center. You can go to the tech zone. You can actually scan this QR code if you feel free to, if you actually are secure enough and safe enough to do that. I trust you, it's okay, but some people are a little paranoid like myself and don't just scan, blank QR codes, but you can get more information about some of our other offerings available here. This particular lab, as I said, it does cover multiple different products. And the different modules, actually, you can see here on the screen that it does actually cover a lot of different stuff. such as SecOps with Aria config. So if you've ever done compliance and drifting control within SecOps, we have a module for that. We have a module for Aria Operations. We have a module 1, which is what we're going to be doing, creating the cloud abstraction layer, which is configuring VRA after you've installed it, and Lifecycle Manager and self-service consumption. So feel free to take any of these modules. The lab, oh, there's a question, okay. So the, sorry, the distraction here with all the technical stuff. The lab is available in Self-Paced Labs. You can feel free to take it as you please. Here in about 2 to 3 weeks, all of these labs will actually be available to the public. So if you miss one here, give it a couple weeks and you can take it at home or in your office when they're available. But feel free to take these as many as you want and as many times as you want. The lab itself is a nested environment on vCloud Director. One thing I really love about these labs is that while we provide a manual for you to actually try and do something that we would recommend, it is an open playground. It is a live environment that you can actually get in, play around with. If you want to try something, if you want to see what happens if you click this instead of that, if it breaks, just in the lab and start a new one. So it is a live environment for you to actually experiment and play with, okay? As I said, you can go ahead and start the lab at any point in time. It is module 1 that we're going to be covering. I'm not going to actually be leading you step by step through it, but I do want to lead you through a conversation about what you are about to do. So you guys can go ahead and start the lab at any point in time. But this is the conversation I want to have. So as you build out these logical constructs, you need to be thinking about, A, who is the person that is going to click on the request of I need a virtual machine? You know, think about this in your office. Currently today, Dave, the developer, comes up to you and says, hey, I need a virtual machine. And you go through a process of getting him a virtual machine, right? Well, you know it's Dave that you need. Is Dave the actual person that goes into vCenter and builds out the virtual machine? No, usually you have a process that it eventually goes through, whatever that process may be, and someone will actually click on the request button to give Dave his virtual machine. So as infrastructure admins, as owners of the platform, you guys, when you actually install VRA, that's where you start. You are the tenant administrator, or what we call the organization administrator. You are basically what starts out with the assembly administrator role and the service broker administrator role. You will have that. Now, do you give your users domain admin rights in Active Directory or enterprise admin rights in Active Directory? Do you give your users cloud admin access in your info blocks? No. So what I want to show you, if you follow our documentation and you follow this lab, it's going to basically build out all of these constructs giving admin access to your users for them to actually use the environment. There's no restrictions here, right? But in reality, you need to understand the relationship between the constructs and the roles to determine who really actually should have what role with their particular project or their particular use, what they need to do. So again, you want to always ask yourself, who is my user and what do they need to do? Those are questions that you guys need to seriously ask as you build out this construct. And I will honestly tell you, when you're building out VRA, until you have a virtual machine or a workload that you care about that has to stay live and running, you can destroy this and rebuild it 10 times in a day. I mean, it doesn't take but a few minutes to actually do once you get the process under your belt. You have a question? No? Okay. So you'll start out as assembly administrator and service broker administrator. And as the assembly administrator, you're going to build out your cloud accounts. For this slide, this is different from your lab, but for this slide, I'm going to pose that we have an orange data center and a green data center. And these would be on-prem data centers for this slide, right? You may be dealing with Amazon, Google, IBM, vCloud Director, VCF, various different cloud accounts that you could actually create. But for this slide, we're going to deal with on-prem 2 vCenters because it's very easy to understand. Once you have your cloud accounts created, you then can actually create a cloud zone. And a cloud zone is really nothing more than a collection of clusters that you would like to deploy to within your environment. These could be based on hardware, based on licensing, based on OS, however you've currently divided your clusters within your current vSphere environment. And they could be, again, depending on where you want to put your load and why, they could be clustered and grouped in a cloud zone with like types, okay? Same thing with your network profile. Again, you have to have your cloud account to be able to create a network profile. They're all tied together. But your network profile, again, is like type networks that will be available in your cloud zones that you want to consume. Same thing with storage. Storage, again, like type storage that's available in the cloud zone that you want your different types of users to consume. Now, in this particular case, we would wind up wanting to create two projects, one for developers and one for production. And once you have your project created, you then map your cloud zone to that project for this is the pool of resources that they would actually consume when they go to deploy workloads. So as the administrator, you get to basically you get to plan for where and how you want these groups to be able to deploy. Now, it is possible some customers would have production being able to consume development resources and production resources probably in the same virtual center and whatnot. But again, this is a scenario that I just want you to think about. There is no best practice because everybody does it different. But I want you to think about when it comes to the consumption, again, of who is going to be clicking the button and what do they actually need access to. And right now, all of this is you as the platform owner. You are the ones that get to configure this. Once you build your projects, you'll add your users in, whomever that may be, as project members to be able to consume what you're building. So your users, they could be project administrators. The only thing that that's going to give you is the ability to actually add more users to the actual project and the ability to manipulate some of the resources, so the cloud zones and the networks and whatnot. But as an administrator, again, that question is, do they need that access? And 9 out of 10 times it's no. So all of your users can actually be project members within the actual project. Once you have the project created, in this case, for my example, I'm going to have my development group, my internal DevOps for my infrastructure team create my blueprints, create my cloud templates, and this will be the standard offering that I will actually offer to my production team to actually consume. Now, if you think about this like a fast food restaurant, when you've walked into the fast food restaurant, do you get to go behind the counter and go cook your own food? No, no, no. You deal with the service broker, the menu, to actually place your order and consume. Your cooks are all in the kitchen making the meals for you. So our DevOps team will actually do our cloud template designs. And for that, they don't need to be cloud assembly administrator. They can be assembly administrator. They can be assembly user to be able to build these cloud templates. That's all the services they need. So your DevOps users, they only need to have project member access and assembly user access to do that job of building those offerings. So once we have the templates created, your administrator, so you, the platform owner, can go in and create a catalog. Once you create the catalog, the DevOps team can then release or publish the cloud templates when they're ready into the catalog. Once the catalog items are there, you, the service broker administrator, the platform administrator, can now create a content sharing policy saying who can actually access this catalog. So the catalog can belong to the development group, but you can share that to the production project so that they can consume your particular blueprints. Questions about this so far? I'm seeing a lot of people very interested, and I'm just making sure that you guys are following. Get a nod for a follow? Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so once the catalog is available and it has content, so we have catalog items, we've got cloud templates that have been published, they're in the catalog, the content's available, it's been shared, the production team can now go, the project members of the production team can now go to the actual catalog and they can request a workload and actually have it deployed. And then it would show up in the Consume tab under Aria Automation. So once it's been deployed, the service broker administrator, and I'm not going to go forward just yet, but the service broker administrator can apply different policies to this particular workload. But I want you to notice, again, the project members of the production project only need to be a service broker user to consume the catalog. They don't need to be service broker administrator. Viewer is basically read-only access. They need just to be user. They don't need cloud assembly user or assembly user and service broker user. They just need service broker user to consume. So unlike our documentation in this lab, we're not giving admin rights out to everybody because that's not really realistic. But this is how you can actually eliminate or restrict some of that access down to what do they need, right? And again, going back to who needs to be the one clicking the button, who needs to be the one actually creating the cloud templates, what is it that they actually need to do? So once a workload has actually been deployed, the production team, still through the service broker as a service broker user, can manage that workload. And they can then do all the day two actions, power on, power off, resize, all the wonderful things that you are giving them actions, available actions to do. And then, like I said, the service broker administrator, at any given time, whether it's the build, the lifecycle, or in destruction of the virtual machine, can actually enforce various different policies on the workload, such as lease policies, approval policies, and quota policies against those workloads. Now, I've been doing this a long time. I see a lot of people use approvals. I love it. If you have ServiceNow, you probably already have it in place. I see a lot of people want to use leasing. I'm a huge fan of it. You know, if someone says, hey, I need a virtual machine for 30 days, I give them 31. On 31, day 31, that thing goes away. Sorry, you should have extended or told me you needed to change. So I'm a huge fan of leasing because I've been in your shoes where that one virtual machine that should have been there for 30 days has been there for 2 years and you're like, what the hell is this? You know, you want to enforce it and clean it up. Quotas is a really good one. Quotas are a little vague, but quotas can be applied based on resources. So if you want to say they only get 10 CPUs and 10 gigs of RAM, you can actually carve it up that way. Or if you wanted to say they could only deploy 10 virtual machines, you could actually apply quotas and restrict them that way. Not a lot of people use these policies in real life. However, I would say look into them, and if you can actually fit them in and take advantage of them, please do so. But this is the actual setup of what you are about to do, except we won't be covering policies in this particular lab. But you will be actually building out a project, all the cloud accounts, all the cloud zones, a network profile, a storage profile. We're going to use GitHub to pull down our templates. So you're not going to build a template in this particular lab, but we do have a lab that covers that. It's module 2. And so you'll pull down a template that's ready to use. You'll build a catalog, and then you'll actually publish the template to that catalog, and then go ahead and deploy a virtual machine. That's what you'll do in this particular lab. Any questions on this so far? None. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I got a question for all of you guys. What role does a user need to be able to build a cloud template? Anybody tell me that one? Hand raised over here. Catherine? See if he has it.
Whereabouts? Over here?
Cloud admin?
No, it is a cloud assembly or assembler user. That's the role that they need. Now, yes, you can build blueprints with cloud assembly. I need to change the name because they changed the name on us. The assembly administrator role, yes, because you have God rights. But to restrict your users, to not give them admin access everywhere, they only need to be assembly user. So they don't actually have to have admin rights. If you give them admin rights, then they get a whole bunch of different privileges that you may not want them to have, and you then may wind up basically punching the wall because now they have too much access and you can't really take it back, right? So when you go to build this out in your environments and you want to keep it safe, it's easier to start out a little limited and add as needed. But assembler user is the role that the development team would actually need to have to build the cloud templates. All right, one more question if no one else has any questions. Anybody have any questions? All right, here's a good question. What is the minimum project role that they would need to have to actually log in? This is a trick question because we didn't answer it. The minimum role would be project viewer, but that would be read-only access. If you wanted them to actually do something, then that would be project member. So project member would allow them to actually log in, and if there's any workloads that are associated with that project, they would be able to manage those projects. Cool. Catherine, do you have any input on this? And please, come up to the stage.
So I would just add, you mentioned obviously the fact that you can have public and private clouds. You can have a mixture of different cloud accounts being used by the different projects as well. So maybe just a question out to the audience that are participating. How many people are actually using public cloud with our Aria Automation product? Or are you purely on-prem still as your environments? Just maybe a show of hands if you've got any public cloud already linked in. Oh, okay.
How many people are using Aria Automation?
Okay.
And how many people have configured it like this? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Rock on.
I mean, I don't know about your experience on customers, but it matches mine. Majority of my customers are financial sector. They're still very much on-prem environment. They may have some public cloud, but it tends to have been shadow IT that they're now trying to bring back under control and then moving away from it. They're very much in the use case of, public cloud was cheaper until they started going absolutely crazy in it, and now suddenly it's much more expensive, and they're trying to desperately bring it back in their control, back on-prem, to then be able to use it again that way. So they're in that sticky situation of trying to do the public cloud experience as our users want it. Rapid deployment, ease of use, can do whatever they need, whenever they need, within the boundaries of the controls that they need as a governance for their individual organization. What about yourself? What kind of customers have you seen, and what's their environments like?
So, all over the board. I've dealt with the financial sector, I've dealt with healthcare, I've dealt with insurance, I've dealt with government, and like I said, they're all over the board. Some customers are utilizing on-prem and public cloud, some only public cloud. It really is across the board. And one of the things that I find is that, and this is just informational for you, if you front Aria Automation with ServiceNow or another type of, I don't know who ServiceNow's competition would be, but if you front VRA with another application, then your configuration would actually be a lot simpler, and it would follow what we wind up having documented in the documentation center online. You would wind up creating a project with a service account as admin, and that admin would be an admin everywhere. So he would have assembler administrator role, he would have service broker administrator role, he would be admin everywhere, because your ServiceNow would actually be utilizing that just like Aria Automation does with a service account for vCenter. It would be using that service account to then go and execute whatever it was that we were offering ServiceNow to consume, such as our blueprints or our workloads. So the configuration would be slightly different. However, you would wind up, it would be simpler in regards to configuring, because it's basically you set it up, configure it, give them God rights everywhere, and let them go.
Yeah, so one of my current customers is in that situation. They use ServiceNow as the front end for the portal. So in terms of the automation setup, they do the basics to set up the infrastructure connectivity, but then everything else is abstracted up into ServiceNow. So all the approvals, all the catalog entitlements, all the description of the users, all the request forms, any extensibility required request time is then passed into ServiceNow. So while it makes the automation platform simpler in terms of the configuration, it has a layer of complexity in terms of you have to be aware of what's configured where and how ServiceNow then consumes the automation platform. So they're doing API calls to drive the automation platform, which obviously doesn't validate beyond, is it a valid data structure? So is it within the bounds, but it doesn't necessarily validate everything the same way as it would do if you went into the GUI, for example. So there's little quirks like that can come back and hit you later.
Right.
But for the benefits they get, one place for all their users to go, whether it's an internal service request to request a new user, whether it's an extension of an account, whether it's a request of a machine, a day 2 action on a machine, it's all from a single portal, so it's a very seamless user experience. They know nothing about the tooling that underpins it in the background.
Now let me ask you a question. When you are actually configuring Aria Automation with your customers, do you go through this exercise of asking them who is the actual user that needs to hit request and who or what kind of activity do they need to do within the environment?
Yeah, I definitely try to. So, obviously we both work for professional services, different sides of the world, obviously, from the US and the UK, but obviously our roles are different as well. So I'm the architect, you're the consultant. So I come in slightly earlier typically on projects than you would do. So I would always try to be sitting down with my customers, going through the business needs of what they're actually trying to achieve with the automation product. So, you can automate everything, but you need to understand what you automate. So I apologize for the language, but crap in, crap out from the automation point of view. So it's very much about getting the customer to be aware of what they're trying to achieve and is it necessarily the best thing to be doing? Is there a better way to be doing it?
Right.
So I'll be talking less about, what are your projects going to be looking like, but more around how is your business organized?
Yeah.
How are your users grouped? How do you want people to be able to consume things within the catalog? Are they going to be grouped based on a project, like a development project that's going to be a particular time frame? Or are you going to go based on your business organization and go based on your departments like the finance, the HR, etc. from the typical point of view?
Yeah.
Trying to map out what it looks like from the top down to then be able to drive that decision as to what the infrastructure looks like from the bottom up.
And that goes along with the project configuration that I have on the board here. Remember I said that I set up this particular slide to have development and production? Well, when you go to do your project configurations, you do want to have like-type users. Again, thinking of who is actually going to be requesting and hitting the button for request. If this tool is just going to be used by your infrastructure admins, then you may only have one project. If this tool is going to be opened to practically everybody in your company, maybe you have a project for engineering, maybe you have a project for healthcare, or maybe you have a project for infrastructure, etc., to give them their own self-service portal to where they can go and request virtual machines. But again, it goes back to that question of, in your virtual center today, who is actually going and right-clicking create a virtual machine from template, right? Who's doing that work? And if that is your infrastructure admin team, then this tool may actually be for them to automate it. If you actually have users logging into vCenter requesting virtual machines, bravo, you're very, very brave. But if they are doing that, then you may want to evict them from vCenter, and send them to Aria Automation and have them in a project where they can actually request virtual machines and they can manage those virtual machines. And honestly, evict them from vCenter. The users don't really need to be in there. Only important people need to be in vCenter to manage and maintain it. Am I getting comments from the peanut crowd? Nope, okay. So, again, it goes back to that question of who is actually doing what? What do they need access to? And so, again, your projects may be few, your projects may be a bunch. And you may have like-type people in those projects. As the owner of the platform, I would strongly recommend that you guys are all project administrators of every project so that you can go and fix all the mistakes that your users wind up doing. But your users only truly need to be project members. So that's important to take away from this. And then if they're building your cloud templates, they need assembler user. Otherwise, service broker user is all they need. Cool. All right, so the next couple of slides are basically ending this, but I want you to continue the work on the lab. As this one says, please continue on, and when you're done, fill out the survey. And please, when you go to fill out the survey, I want you to be honest and frank. If there were things you liked, mention it. If there are things you didn't like, mention it. If you didn't like that it was too hot in here, the lights are horrible, no carpet, mention it. But if you loved the music, you loved the people, mention it. And if there's something that we could have done differently to make this expert-led workshop better or this lab better, please mention that, because I will take that back, and before we do Barcelona in November, I will correct some of these problems, or before you actually get access to these in a couple of weeks, we can correct some of these problems if you actually see a problem, and have it ready to go and changed based on your feedback to resolve any kind of issues. So, cool.
And obviously, while you're taking the lab for the next remaining hour, I think we got roughly.
Do we have another hour to go?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Oh, gee whiz.
Feel free to raise your hand, ask us anything you like about the products. Both Sam and I cover the automation product, but we can also do orchestrator comments as well. It doesn't have to be related to the module you're taking, doesn't have to be directly related to the lab. If there's anything you'd like to know about the product, anything you'd like to know question-wise about your own environments, please just raise your hand. We'd be more than happy to talk. It's what we get out of these workshops compared to just sitting here letting you take a lab on your own.
And if you want some behind-the-scenes tips, behind this curtain tips for VMware Explorer. All the names have changed. So behind VMware Explorer, hands-on labs is really important for you guys. We are here for you. We're not here to sell you anything. So what I would recommend is that if you have various different scenarios or different hurdles or obstacles that you're facing in your own environment, anybody that's wearing lab staff shirts, if you find us, you can actually have us sit down with you and discuss those particular issues or those scenarios. Maybe you're looking to upgrade and you want to know what kind of gotchas would you actually face during your upgrade, or maybe you're looking for a migration. What am I looking, what kind of problems am I not thinking about, right? Feel free to grab one of us. We can sit down with you, we can whiteboard. There's plenty of whiteboard tables out and whiteboards in these workshops. We can actually sit and discuss with you. We are here for you, so take advantage of it. Cool, with that being said, I'm gonna let you guys kind of do your thing for a moment, but we will walk around and answer any questions that you may have.